Let us pray. May the words of my mouth and the meditation of all our hearts be acceptable in your sight, O God, our strength and our hope. Amen. Well, the day many of you may have been dreading has arrived. I'm sorry I'm not there in person, and I don't want you to think that I'm bringing this up now on a recording so that I don't have to be there in person. We're going to have to talk about money. Wait, sit down. Just don't everybody run for the doors. It's going to be fine. Just have a seat. Okay. Listen, we have to talk about money because you know that parable you just heard this morning is about money. It is. The thing is, it may not be about money the way you think it is. Now, yes, this parable is confusing and complicated. In fact, most preachers dread the day that this parable comes up in the lectionary because they're forced to do one of two things. One is talk about money, which I am willingly doing, and the other is to explain every nuance, every nook and cranny of this parable in some desperate attempt to actually avoid having to talk about money. But it is actually about it. Not money specifically by itself, but the currency is maybe a better way of saying what Jesus is talking about here. We say money, but we mean currency. I'm going to say that because I think it's absolutely connected to everyone's favorite word, stewardship. In that, and here's a way that it is connected. When we talk about stewardship, and we often dread it, but when we talk about stewardship, usually in our heads that means we're going to hear about money and how much we need it, how much it costs to run the building, to run this program or that program, to pay for the minister. It's about money and how much we need it. Or we're going to hear about we need your time and talents, right? And the thing about that is that quite often what we do is we talk about the one or the other almost to the exclusion of the other. We make a big fuss, for instance, about how important it is for you to give your time and talents. Oh, that's what we're talking about. It's just about people being involved in everything. It's not about your money. It's about, but if you could actually increase your givings by 10%, that would be really great. We're just bad at it. If you think that we talk about money all the time, I'm sorry, we don't talk about money all the time. We should probably talk about it more than we do. But chronically, churches talk about money badly. We somehow, we're embarrassed to talk about it because we're embarrassed to ask you for money. We're embarrassed about having to explain to you why you should. And see, there's part of our problem right there, is that for centuries it has been necessary for you to support the church because it's the church. Period. Somehow you should know what that means, or worse, you should be thinking that you need to support the church because, this is a house of God. Somehow it's going to improve your chances of getting into the heavenly place. You might be even having to listen to a pastor who is saying to you, Jesus commands you that you shall give unto the church, verily, every one of your pennies. It's not about that. And this parable is why we know it's not about that. The point of this story, I think, is the big picture. I think we could easily get lost in all the nooks and crannies of this story because it's got a lot of twists and turns. It's got a lot of really bizarre questions like, why is it that Jesus seems to endorse the fact that this person who is dishonest is then shrewd about his dishonesty? Why does that seem to be a good thing somehow? And how is it that Jesus gets out of this parable about people essentially going around ripping each other off to you can't serve money and God? You can't serve two masters. Here's the thing. if you look at the big picture of this story, here's what I think it's about. It's about our relationship with money or currency. Let's say currency, because it's not just about dollars and cents. It's about you and your time and your talents and all of that other stuff that we always talk about. It is truly about that. But here's the thing. First of all, I don't for a moment think Jesus thinks money is bad. In fact, for those who truly believe that money cannot buy you happiness, I don't mean to disappoint you, but I don't agree with that. I think money actually can buy you happiness. As a tool, money can actually bring you to joy. Hear me out, because I think this is part of what Jesus is saying. It's about our relationship with it, right? If you are acquiring wealth of whatever variety, if you are acquiring wealth simply to acquire wealth, if it is wealth that is your goal, if you can only see yourself in the picture of like Scrooge McDuck rolling around in his billions in his safe, that's wrong. That will not bring you happiness. In fact, what it will bring you is a disconnection from everyone else. It will bring you disconnection from community. If, however, your relationship with currency is about how you use it, how you gain it, how you bring it to yourself in a positive and affirming way, not by ripping people off. Although, actually, I do think Jesus thinks that we could learn a few things about being shrewd from this businessman. But if you gather your wealth fairly and equitably and justly, and you use it to then live into the goodness that is in your heart. I know we always say from the goodness of your heart, right? But yes, absolutely. That's not a cliche. If you live to share your wealth according to the goodness of your heart, remember we're created in the image of God. Our default setting is good. You'll want to do all of the things that Jesus reminds us we need to do, not just talk about, not just laws to live by, but laws that are in our heart that we then live out. We are sharing our wealth in a way that brings us the truest of happiness. We are caring for others. We are contributing to something that brings meaning to our lives and to the lives of others. We are building community. We are engaging others. We are sharing with those in need as much as we are in need of sharing. It's about our relationship with it. If our relationship is to treat money as if it's solely the idol of wealth, that's wrong. And by the way, you're violating the first commandment anyway, right? No other gods before me, right? That's not going to bring you happiness. It's simply going to disconnect you from happiness. But to serve God is to live in a way which contributes to not only your own personal happiness, but the happiness of the world around you, the joy, the wealth of the world. It's to care for others. It's to bring love and joy into the lives of other people as well as your own. The doing of that, the loving as Jesus showed us to love, is what will bring meaning and love to your own life, a sense of fulfillment to your own life. I think that's what Jesus is trying to say here. I think we could easily get lost in the little idiosyncrasies and bits and pieces of this parable. And by the way, they're all fascinating. I'm sure they are absolutely fascinating. But there's a reason why there's 47 million different interpretations of this parable. It's because that's getting lost in the parable itself. If the point of the story is simply to remind us that true happiness comes from our hearts and living out the goodness that is in it, and that we use our resources in order to do that, we'll understand our relationship with money a little bit better. We'll understand our relationship with each other a little bit better. We'll understand our relationship with the church a little bit better. The church does need money. I'm going to tell you right now. It absolutely does. I have no problems telling you that. However, what I want you to understand too, though, is that you should want to support that which is meaningful and important to you. If this moment on Sunday morning, this message, whether it's the gathering of the people here, whether it's the hymns that you sing, whatever the choir sings, whatever music we hear, whatever words are heard or shared, whatever prayer is shared or heard or answered, whether it's the coffee afterwards, if you think that's important, you should want to support that with the wealth at your disposal. Whether that's money or person or involvement. Remember, we like people to sign up to be involved with everything from being a leader in the service to reading to greeting to coffee afterwards. Of course, we want you to be part of that because participating in that makes it happen. It's important. If you believe that the thrift shop's work in the community is important, you might want to consider volunteering to help them, to use that currency, to support that. If you believe that this building being here is important not only to our community of faith, but to our wider community, you should probably want to support that too with the currency available to you. And you should want that to happen not because, well, when I've thought of everything else, it's I think might be important to me. That's okay, I've got this left over. Well, this much of it can go towards that then. It's not like that. You know it isn't. Because Jesus likes to remind people that the work of God is everyday work. It's in everything that we do. Living as Jesus teaches us is to live as Jesus teaches us. It's not something we set aside or a moment here or a moment there. It's in everything that we do. If that's important to you, and I truly hope it is, if that's important to you, you will want to support it as best you can with the resources, with the currency available to you. Yes, that's money. It absolutely is. Is it your time and your talents? Yes, it absolutely is. Is it you sharing the good news of why this is meaningful to you with other people? Yes, it absolutely is. Is it you dragging your friends kicking and screaming to come to church and asking them to put money in the plate? No, it is not. Don't do that. That's not serving God. Serving God is to live the love that Jesus showed us to share. And yes, we need your financial support to do that. Yes, we need your time. Yes, we need your talents. So do you. If it is truly meaningful to you, if it engages the goodness that is at the heart of your heart, so do you. It will bring you joy. Amen.